You're listening to the Doctor Is In podcast, brought to you by MartinClinic.com. During the episode, the doctors share a lot of information. As awesome as the info may be, it is not intended to diagnose, cure, treat, or prevent any disease. It's strictly for informational purposes.
Well, good morning, everyone. We're going to look at two interesting studies that I saw yesterday. So I want to talk about them today. There's always new studies coming out. And it seems that the world stopped, and the vast majority of the world has stopped. But there are still studies at least being published. They probably were done a little earlier, and now they're being published. So I have a service that just gives me all these studies, and if I'm interested or I flag them, I read them. And one of them has to do with a study that came out from the New York Stony Brook University. Okay, Stony Brook University, to be honest, I've never heard of it. But they talked about the brain and type 3 diabetes. Do you know what type 3 diabetes is? What's type 3 diabetes? Alzheimer's. It's type 3 diabetes is Alzheimer's. Dementia. That's what they called it. Type 3 diabetes. And I want to talk to you about this study that came out, and we'll try and get to two studies. One of them is on vitamin D. Hello. I'm always talking about vitamin D, but I'm always talking about insulin too, aren't I? Okay, so let me just give you the two important findings from Stony Brook University. Okay, this is very significant when it comes to Alzheimer's, dementia, type 3 diabetes. Well, there's your clue, guys. It's food. There's your clue. You don't hear about this too much. They're looking for medication for Alzheimer's and dementia. You can imagine the pharmaceutical companies are racing. And so far, they've come up empty because they're looking for love in all the wrong places. You need to anyway, let me read you the two things that came out of this study, okay? Stony Brook University, New York. Cognitive changes, okay, here's the first finding. Cognitive changes start earlier than expected. So what happens in your brain, and we're going to go over this in a minute, okay? What actually happens in the brain? I'm going to do a little bit of teaching on this morning, okay? So rinse and repeat, because I'm always going to come back to what you can control. So what they're saying is Alzheimer's, dementia, that these cognitive changes start much earlier than they thought, okay? So isn't that important? You don't want to wait till you get signs of dementia or Alzheimer's. You want to get this early because they're saying in the late 40s is when changes are occurring in the brain in what they call type 3 diabetes, which is Alzheimer's, okay? So cognitive changes occur early. That was the first finding of this study, much earlier than expected. The second thing that they found was you can change course. Now, guys, you would think, now, you're never going to get in the, unless it's COVID, there's nothing else in the news, right? But you would think that the media would have picked up on this because, come on, guys, who isn't scared of outliving their brain, right? It's one of the greatest fears in our society, especially as people get older. They're very, very fearful for their brain and their memory, right? Guys, I can tell you I'm concerned about that, of course, not only for you, but for me. I'm a senior citizen. My occupation requires a brain. I got to be able to think. Now, some of you guys are going, you don't need much of one, Dr. Martin, because you got a one-track mind. You're right. But I still like to think, and I need my brain, so I try and protect it. So the study twofold. One, changes occur in the cognitive changes in the brain start occurring much earlier than before that they thought of. And two, you can change it, which is a very, very good thing, isn't it? So guys, if you've never considered what you can do for your brain, let me explain this morning what happens inside the brain. And I'm going to make it really as simple as I can, okay? Now, 2 centers in your brain. You guys should know this. There's 2 centers in the brain. Hippocampus, hypothalamus, okay? Hippocampus, campus, memory. It's easy. Your memory center in your brain, okay? And your hypothalamus is your hormones. We talked about it last week with the thyroid. It starts in the hypothalamus and it goes to the pituitary gland and even your adrenals. It starts in the hypothalamus. Insulin. Okay? In your brain. Okay? It starts in the center. Your headquarters is up here. But let me tell you a little bit about food and the brain. One thing that your brain needs, its headquarters. So think about it. It needs energy. Okay? So when you eat, your brain likes that. Of course it does. Well, your whole body does, but your brain takes 20%. It's, your brain is about, it's the size, of your fist. Okay? Put that in your head there. It's about this size, right? It's not much bigger than that, but it takes 20% of all your energy. Why? Because it's headquarters. And your brain is very, very, how can I say this? Your brain takes in sugar rapidly. Okay? It takes in sugar rapidly. So if you, and you guys, if put your hand up if you're a parent, right? Guys, you would know this. Give a kid sugar. Woo! Right? Teachers know this. They have a sugary breakfast and they're boink, 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 boink. And, they come to grandma and grandpa's and you give them sugar and you send them home. Okay? You want to pay your kids back. You see it in children, right? And especially if kids have ADD or ADHD, you see them, they get on sugar, it affects them big time, right? Their brain, it takes a direct route to the brain. Okay, so we all understand that in a simple way. So your brain, if you have crappy carbs and sugars, a lot of that's going to go to your brain immediately. Okay? Because your brain sees it as energy. There's a problem though. There's a problem. Because the thing now, you guys know this too, but I'm just going to refresh your brain. Pardon the pun. Insulin. When you have sugar, your pancreas, okay? I don't know what better way to describe a pancreas than a pen. Because it looks like a pen. It's the same size of a pen. And it sits in underneath your stomach in behind there a little bit. And it's so important. But if you have carbs and you have sugars, they go straight to your brain. Your brain takes it. The problem with insulin, you know what insulin does? Insulin's job is to take that sugar and take it out of your bloodstream. But the problem is when sugar gets up to the brain, different than anywhere else, insulin has trouble getting across what they call the blood-brain barrier, okay, to do its job. So what happens, okay, and I'll come back to this in a second. So what happens is that your memory center in the brain, especially your hippocampus in the brain, gets soaked with sugar. And those brain cells get damaged by the sugar that stays in your brain. Now remember, your pancreas secretes, just like a pen uses ink, your pancreas secretes insulin to go after that sugar. The problem is, guys, you have a blood-brain barrier. Now your blood-brain barrier is like your gut-blood barrier. Now you guys know this. Your blood-gut barrier is inhabited by what? Bacteria. And they protect your blood. They don't want no fungus coming in, no candida. They don't want bacteria coming into your blood. They don't want viruses to come into your blood. They don't want heavy metals to come into your blood. They don't want any gunk going into your blood. That's in your gut. We've talked about that many a time. But here's what we know about the blood-brain barrier. Aren't you unbelievably, fearfully... Look, guys, if you don't think there's a God, I don't know what to say to you. That we would have a barrier around our brain. It's invisible. You can't see it. That is made up of bacteria. They're on your side. Remember what I told you? The good guys and the bad guys? You have a blood-brain barrier and it's there for your protection. It doesn't want garbage to go into your brain. It doesn't want heavy metals like mercury and lead to go into your brain and cadmium. It doesn't want bacteria or viruses to go up into your brain. It's called the blood-brain barrier. The problem with that barrier, even though it's on your side, is if you're a carbaholic, if you're a big sugar eater, which is the vast majority, 88% of the population are. So put your hand up. My name is Tony, and I'm a carbaholic. Don't fool yourself. Because if you live on carbs, you're a carbaholic. If you're a vegetarian, most vegetarians are carbaholics. They don't get enough protein. They don't get enough healthy fat in their diet. Anyway, your blood-brain barrier does not allow insulin into the brain rapidly. Insulin, remember what we talked about yesterday. Insulin, it's got a job to do. It's got to get inside the brain and take that sugar out. You, out. Remember, it's the traffic cop. It's the traffic cop. You're parking in the wrong spot. Get out. That's what insulin does. But what happens if it can't get into the brain? Your brain cells, especially your hippocampus cells, get soaked in sugar. And sugar destroys your brain cells. Folks, that is type 3 diabetes, Alzheimer's. That's the path of Alzheimer's. That is the path of dementia. Yeah. And you see why the Martin Clinic were one-trick ponies? Guys, you can't control everything in life, and it's not genetics. If your mommy had Alzheimer's, that doesn't make you more susceptible to it. It's not genetics. Guys, it's not. I hear that every day. Well, my mommy had it. My grandmother, Alzheimer's, and I don't want that. Yeah, well, mommy got it and daddy got it because they were carbaholics. They ate too much sugar. Not because of their genetics. It's something you can help. You can control. Yeah? So isn't that significant? You want to protect that memory center in your brain, guys? If someone calls you fathead, take it as a compliment. You want to eat fat, not carbs. Remember, it doesn't mean that your brain doesn't need any sugar at all, but you don't need to eat sugar for your brain to get sugar. I always tell people that. I said for the little bit of a half a teaspoon in 5 liters of blood? Your body don't need much sugar, but if it needs a little bit, it'll take a piece of steak and turn it into sugar. Did you know that? It'll take some protein and turn it to sugar if it needs it. This is why, guys, this is why, again, this is why we're always talking about insulin. High circulating insulin is the number one thing on the hit parade in terms of causing disease. The number one thing on the hit parade today. There's a huge link, guys. You've heard me say this before. I'll say it again. There's a huge link between diabetes, because let me just go over this again. If you don't believe what I'm saying, let me tell you how you're going to die. Your chance, I don't know, a lot of people I don't know, so your chances of dying of COVID are 0 point whatever, right? They've proven that. I know it's taken over the world, but your chances of dying of that are, unless you're in a home, unless you have terrible pre-existing conditions, it's not even on the radar, guys. It's not even on the radar. And we got lost here because we're not talking about the things that we should be talking about, what you can die of every day. And here's how North Americans die every day. Number one, well, not probably in the last 2 months, accidents. But let's not talk about that, because that had nothing to do with me. You're in the wrong place at the wrong time. Nothing, that's fate. But let me tell you what kills us. Number one, still today, not COVID, heart disease and stroke. Number one way you're going to die. 2, cancer. Number 1 is heart. Number 2 is cancer. And if I could put my fingers together, they're very, very close. Okay? What happened to our war on cancer? We're losing. Oh, Dr. Martin, I give to the Cancer Society. Well, good for you. You can do whatever you want with your money. But don't say we're winning the war. We're not. We're losing the war. We're losing the war on heart disease because they're looking for love in all the wrong places. Anyway, what is the number 3 way you're going to die in our society today? This is so incredible. This is so unbelievable that you think I'm making this up. What's the 3rd way that you could die in terms of the hit parade? 1, heart disease. 2, cancer. And 3, Alzheimer's. Number 3 in North America of the way you die. Number 3, in the 1970s, it wasn't even on the hit parade. It wasn't even there in the top 50. You know how they do the songs? The top 50? Do they still do that, by the way? I used to love the hit parade when I was a kid. They still have a hit parade? Tom, you would remember that. We sang all those songs as kids. The top 20 or whatever. Well, the top on the hit parade, heart and stroke, cancer, Alzheimer's, number 3. It's incredible. It is unbelievable. We don't talk about it near enough in society today. I guess it ain't sexy for the news to talk about it. And number 4 is diabetes. But we just explained that Alzheimer's is diabetes of the brain. It's type 3 diabetes. So when they say diabetes is the 4th reason you die, and it was the number 1 reason for COVID to kill you was diabetes and obesity. The number 1 reason. It's food. Food. It's not your genetics. Medicine spent 20, 30 years. Genetics. And they're looking for drugs for that. Genetics, you override genetics. You override it when you take care of yourself. This is why, Dr. Martin, I'm flipping from seeing patients For 45 years. In May, it's going to be 46 years. And I'm into full-time education. Full-time education. Somebody said to me yesterday, I think online or whatever, Dr. Martin, you're retiring. What? I'm not retiring, Lord willing. No, I'm busier than ever. I'm writing, I'm studying, I'm educating. It's coming to a theater near you. I'm doing this every day, producing courses. I want to train people to understand their bodies and to take care of them and then to influence other people with that. Every doctor in the world should take nutrition courses, post-secondary, post-education, like once they're graduated, well, get nutrition, man. So isn't that incredible about your brain? Take care of it. The thing you can control, and the earlier you start, the better it is for your brain. And what they're showing in this study was that your brain regenerates. The optimism in the study is tremendous because it says you can start today and change your brain. This is why I talked to you about, even yesterday, I talked to you about changing fuels. When you change from crappy carbohydrates to protein and fat, you change fuels. You're now giving your brain 99 octane. It burns better. It's a better fuel. You're giving it jet fuel by changing your food. And this is why, like I think I answered someone online yesterday. They were saying they started the reset, okay? Which is, guys, if you don't know what the reset is, it's very simple. It's eggs, meat, and cheese for 4 weeks. It's the animal kingdom only for 4 weeks. Oh, Dr. Martin, what am I going to do without my fruits and vegetables? You'll live. You'll live. There's a reason I'm doing it. I want to reset, and part of the reset is your brain gets regenerated. The brain, the brain cells regenerate in 4 weeks because you change fuels. And you're actually helping with insulin resistance. So guess what? Even at the blood-brain barrier, insulin gets in quicker to get into the brain and to do a mop-up of sugar that don't belong in there. Guys, these are the things we're finding. Isn't it incredible? So it's exciting. Yeah, it's exciting. Okay, so though, can you imagine how significant this is? It is the cure. I hate to use that word. It is the cure for Alzheimer's and dementia. It's the thing you can control. Isn't that crazy, guys? But that's what that study is showing, okay? So when you think of your brain, think of fuel. When you think of your brain, think of putting the right fuel in your brain. Think of brain, remember your hippocampus. The memory center is very susceptible to sugar staying in your brain. It starts to destroy it. Sugar left in your brain destroys your brain cells, especially the memory center of your brain. And it comes back to bite you later in life. Although we're seeing a lot of Alzheimer's and early cognitive problems in much younger generation, much younger. You know what? I feel sorry for young people today. I really do. For lots of reasons. I do. Well, first of all, they've been lied to by the food industry. They're into this, the young people, you know, they don't particularly like animal foods because they bought the lie. The environmental movement and the climate movement and all that, they've said, well, don't eat animals. Don't have any of that. So be a vegetarian or even better, be a vegan. And they bought that. I feel sorry for them. They've been lied to, guys. They got lied to. And they think it's good for the environment and the climate, you know, because cows fart, I guess. It's craziness. You need that. Your body was made for that. There was another study, and maybe I'll talk about it tomorrow, on B12. You can't get B12 in the plant kingdom. It ain't in there. You want to talk about an important vitamin for your brain? Is B12. It ain't even in the plants. There's not enough B12 in the plants to feed a mouse. Don't fool yourself. And a lot of your grandchildren, whatever, I don't know if they're being taught this in school. They're being indoctrinated. The animal kingdom is higher than human beings. Is it true or false? True. Anyway, don't get me too excited. I'll start preaching. Okay, guys, I didn't get to that second study on vitamin D. I'll bring it out tomorrow and maybe do another study, 2 studies tomorrow instead of just 1. But isn't the brain significant? I think it was worth spending our time on here today. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember, Thursday, we just put it out in an email. If you don't get our emails, make sure you sign up. Join the Martin Clinic Facebook group if you're not on that too. But if you don't get our emails, get our emails, okay? Secondly, you go to martinclinic.com to join the email list, or you go on our Facebook and join our private Facebook group, okay? Because that's a tremendous group, by the way. And on Thursday, we're doing our radio show format again at 2 o'clock. Now, apparently you don't have to sign in, okay? You don't have to sign in, or do you? You have to register, I think. I don't think you have to sign. I don't know. I take it all back because I don't know anything. I'm a dinosaur when it comes to that. I'm just going to lead you astray. Okay, love you guys. Talk to you soon.
You've reached the end of another Doctor is In podcast with your hosts, Dr. Martin Jr. and Sr. Be sure to catch our next episode, and thanks for listening.